So I wanted to jump in and talk about the Doomsday trailer that came out a couple days ago. One of the things that I read in reaction to it was there's been kind of a muted response to it, and some of the
Mm.
response was like, well, the trailer isn't really giving us more of as too much of the story, so how are we supposed to get invested in this? And I tend to agree with that take. But then the counter argument was like, well, the Odyssey kind of did the same thing. Like the marketing for the Odyssey really doesn't tell you what is in the movie. You have to go see it and experience it. That said, I think most people have more of an expectation that they're going to get something really exciting out of a Christopher Nolan movie than the 30th or whatever Marvel movie. But
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you
Well,
think
do
about that?
do you think it's also possible though that maybe they figured that since the Odyssey's been around since thousands of years before everybody now is
Yeah,
alive, that they figure like what the hell's going on here?
I don't think so. I think that there's like a lot of people who don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's true, but I guess like I haven't read it since I was whatever 8 or however old you are when you read the Odyssey for the first time, and usually the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
time because it's assigned. But while watching the movie, like I went in thinking I'm like I kind of know the story of the Odyssey, and then it turns out I didn't, except for like 4 passages. But it's like one of
Yeah.
those things where like there's a psychic imprint on the world that makes us think we've all seen the Odyssey because we've just seen 1,000 things that are like riffs on it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I wonder if there's just like that psychic memory, was the thing they were banking on.
Yeah, probably. But when it comes to Doomsday, I've seen a lot of really funny like reactions to what the movie's gonna be, and it's like, oh no, we have to fight, but the true villain is Doctor Doom, and now we have to defeat, like, and that probably is the broad outline of the movie. But I still, in my view, still think there's probably a lot of surprises in that movie that we can't account for until we see it. But yeah, I don't know. What was your take on Doomsday?
Well, I think if that's not what you just described, which is like we have to fight each other, but then Doom's the big villain, then this trailer did a terrible job because that's exactly what that trailer made it look like. But so we heard Doom. I think this is the first time we've heard Doom, right?
Yeah,
We've seen him in silhouette stuff like this. First time we've heard him. I have to say he sounds exactly like Nandor from What We Do in the Shadows to
yeah.
me. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to make the jump to not laugh when I hear him talk in the movie because all I can picture is the actor that plays Nandor going, "This fucking guy," every time I hear him talk. So
I heard
hopefully
that.
that won't stick in my
Yeah,
head.
I also heard people refer to him as Bela Lugosi, which I was like, yeah, that's great. Like, why not?
And I mean, who knows? We haven't actually seen his performance in context. So I mean,
Yeah,
maybe he's pulling a Nick Cage. You know what I mean? Maybe it is a broad choice. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
as
What
far as
else
the
did you
movie
think?
goes,
Yeah,
what I will say is, so here's what's interesting to me: that when we watched Infinity War and Endgame, when we saw the trailers for those, what was interesting about it is that like you had, what was it at the time, 10 years of story that was building up to this movie. So this was an enormous amount of momentum. And I know that there have been people arguing that the more recent phase of Marvel has not been building the way that they did towards Infinity War. But what I think is interesting is someone at some point very smartly was like, well, if we cram all of the old Marvel movies that other people made, it's actually a story that's 30 years in the making now because we
hmm
went all the way back to, was it 2000, right, when the first X-Men came out. So
yeah,
now
yeah,
we're like, this is a story that's been, it's been 26 years in the making. So it's sort of like sneakily worked its way around not doing as well in this recent phase by just bringing in a bunch of shit that's been around forever and then being like, yeah, but can you believe that this story that we've been telling for 30 years is finally culminating, even though
yeah.
technically it wasn't their story they were telling from before.
I often think back to the marketing for Infinity War, and there's this video, like a hype promo video they made, and Kevin Feige sitting down, he's talking about like what fans can expect from Infinity War, and he very dramatically says, like, in this movie, you're gonna see the Avengers meet the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then it shows the concept art of Thor hanging out with Rocket, and I'm like I was like, is that like that? Like after all these movies, like seeing these two teams like, finally meet, is that gonna be that cool? And then that was my cynical take. But then when it actually happened on screen, I was like, oh, you know what? This actually is kind of cool. Like, and it is kind of cool that this is the first time it's happening in Infinity War, right? We're seeing the cosmic side meet the Earthbound side, and I feel the same way with Doomsday. Like I'm doing the same thing where I'm like, oh, we're finally gonna get to see the X-Men meet, the Avengers meet the Fantastic Four, and I'm like, that's it? Like I kind of want like dozens of, crazy realities to interact. But then I don't know, I'm holding out hope that like in the actual movie, just those three interacting will feel like cool and interesting and unique. But I don't know, it's really hard to say because we've seen so much in the last like 5 years of these kinds of crossovers and, pulling the nostalgia actors out of retirement and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I also think we know that this is the first part of a two-parter, so I think in all likelihood,
Yeah.
a ton of what you're talking about is probably reserved for entry number two. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be. It's really, I've been thinking about Secret Wars a lot because I have, we don't know anything about Secret Wars and we all kind of assume it will be a take on the Jonathan Hickman thing. But I started reading the original Secret Wars again just to refresh my memory because I think like even post Endgame, the Russos were on record saying, we're kind of done with Marvel, but we'd come back for Secret Wars. And they were talking about the original 80s Jim Shooter one. And in that one, it literally is like a comic book based on a toy line where they have the good guys and the bad guys, like, punch each other. Like there isn't a ton of like, I mean, there are memorable moments. Like obviously, like there's the iconic moment where Spider-Man gets his black suit. Like that happened in the first Secret Wars. And maybe they're talking about stuff like that. And Doom is a big part of that story. So, I could see how that, but but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's most likely going to be a combination of classic Secret Wars and newer Secret Wars, or I don't know. Maybe I mean, who's to say? Like, there's
Yeah.
no real
Well, I
good
mean,
idea what it
so
is.
few of
Yeah,
the adaptations that Marvel has done has been straight adaptations anyway. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
they
yeah.
take the inspiration of a story. Like if you look at Civil War, Civil War was an
Hmm.
enormous storyline in the comics, and in the movie it was compressed into a single film and didn't exactly go the way that the comic went, but was sort of like inspired by it. So I would imagine it's probably similar with this one.
Yeah, the thing I keep thinking about when it comes to Infinity War is there's like this entire subplot of Thor, Rocket, Groot going on this journey to like for him to craft this ultimate weapon, and they meet, the dwarf and like it's this whole thread in the movie that nobody could have predicted or like, there's no like scooper out there who could be like, oh, well, this was obviously from the comics because it was just like an invention for the movie itself. And that's where I always think like when it comes to Doomsday, like there's obvious things that we can probably expect to see in Doomsday. But I don't know. Like, I think the film itself is going to be more than, I think it's like the runtime is up to 3 hours or more, I think. Like, and we've seen like maybe 10 minutes at the most. I think there's probably going to be a lot of subplots and different, you know, uh, journeys going on in that movie that we can't anticipate because, we're not, we're not in the trenches, right?
Yeah, speak for yourself, pal. I'm in there. I'm in there every day.
I know,
I'm
right?
I'm hiding in I'm hiding in food carts in the hotels outside of Atlanta.
That's hilarious, dude. The other trailer that came out this week was Clayface. How'd you feel about that one?
So this goes without saying. I think people who have listened to us before know an enormous horror fan. So it was going to take a swing and a miss for me to not be excited about Clayface. When I heard that it was going to be body horror, that I knew that Mike Flanagan wrote it, that Watkins directed it. Like it was a package that was. It felt like it was couldn't miss for me. And I saw the teaser and I really liked it. I loved the longer trailer
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it had my biggest fear was it was going to be a comic book horror movie in the sense that like it was a lot of it was just going to be like big icky stuff, you know what I mean, in the sense of
yeah, yeah.
like large scale. And my favorite part of the new trailer is the part where his powers are going weird while he's on the airplane, and so he goes
Right.
into the airplane bathroom and breaks out the tiny little cosmetic scissors in an attempt to fix what's going wrong with his eyeball. I literally had a scene where I had a sharp object near my eyeball that I put out recently, so it spoke to me. But
That's
I
hilarious.
really liked that the trailer. The trailer showed like little stuff like that, and then the big stuff, and I like that it seems like it's working in a bunch of different gears. It seems like there's a lot of like little character stuff, and also sort of like I wouldn't say big world building, except in the sense I guess this is the first time we're seeing the new DCU's Gotham, so I guess it's world building in that capacity. But it just I don't know, it feels interesting to me because it also feels like a solo villain movie that doesn't feel like they're trying to treat the villain like a hero like the
Yeah.
Sony Spider-Man villain movies did. They try to make everybody an anti-hero, and it's like, well, we liked them because they were villains, and it feels like in this movie they're definitely treating him like he's still a villain. That's not buried lead, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that I kept thinking was the touch point or touchstone, sorry, this movie is kind of relying on are things that are more like Cronenberg's The Fly or Frankenstein or just like monster movie, And and I was gonna ask you, like, what do you think about like so far, like just the monster-ishness of the of what we've seen so far? Like, I'm thinking of like when he's in the bathtub and he's like this melted mess. Uh, Like, I'm kind of wondering because I think the movie is going to build to when he's like the big hulking Clayface that we know from comics and cartoons and stuff. But I am kind of curious about that like melted, gross, like human part of like you know what I mean? Like that has a really potential to be iconic, the way some of these other things have been. And I think that'll be a real testament to whether it's successful or not, is if how iconic and how impactful like that, kind of gross monster is going to be, right?
Yeah, and I think we definitely won't know until it's been released because I think Watkins has gone on record as saying you're not going to see what the like final version of Clayface looks like until the film is out. Like they're not putting in any of the promo material or anything like that because he said, especially I think with the origin of a monster story, that's the bread and butter of the story is where
Yeah.
he ends up. So like you don't certainly don't want to you don't want to pull a Castaway and show how the movie ends in the trailer for the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm really excited about it because I think, well, first of all, Watkins is interesting in handling adaptational material. He did the remake of Speak No Evil that came out, was it last year or the year before? I'm not sure when it came out, but that was a remake of a European film. And he had a very interesting and sort of uniquely Western take on it, in American take on it. So I like the idea that he's good at adapting. I think Mike Flanagan's really good at telling tragic stories that still have a lot of heart to them, even though they're horrifying. And yeah, like I said, I think what's I'm most excited about is that this tests the R rating for a superhero movie in a different way than it's been tested in other capacities.
Yeah.
Like literally just leaning into the horror aspects. That's not really been a thing they tried. And also the idea of a $40 million superhero movie is interesting. Like I guess the Joker movies were a little less expensive than most other superhero movies, but this is the only other one I can think of that's even close to a price point that a reasonable normal movie would be. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if it performs well, and I mean, I think yesterday I was looking at it after it had been out, the trailer had been out for 10 hours on DC, it had 4 million views. So there does seem to be some interest and hunger, at least in paying attention to what's going on with it. So I hope
Yeah.
that it does well because I would love to see this range of variety within the DCU.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about the timing for the rollout of the trailer because San Diego Comic-Con is this weekend. From what I've read, DC isn't going to have a huge presence at Comic-Con. They're going to have a Lanterns panel, but that's more on the HBO side. On the film side, I don't know if Clayface is going to be represented or if they're going to have panels or anything. So they had like a big Entertainment Weekly, cover story on Clayface, and then the trailer came out. So the marketing push has begun, but I don't know if we're expected to see more this week. And then like I said, Lanterns has a panel this weekend, and then Marvel obviously is going to be rolling in with Doomsday presumably, and then this weekend Spider-Man comes out. So I mean, by the time, yeah, I guess the timing for Comic-Con and Spider-Man, like I don't know, like most people will. There isn't much more promo to do at Comic-Con for Spider-Man because I think the movie comes out a few, yeah. So I expect it to be more Doomsday
I mean,
focused, right?
you know what's interesting though is it is kind of timed perfectly though for what you were telling me. There was the rumor that they were going to announce the cast of the X
Hmm.
Men,
Yeah, yeah,
and if they had wanted to keep who Sadie Sink is playing a secret up until the movie was released, this is kind of perfectly timed so that they can finally cop to, yeah, she's
yeah.
Jean Grey, and here's the rest of the X Men kind of thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we'll see what Marvel does. But yeah, so like I said, Spider-Man's coming out. There's so much promo for this movie. There was a ton during the World Cup. Like I don't know if you got served any of that stuff. It was like Peter Parker with Messi and there's just a whole bunch of promo in English and Spanish. And then this week I've been seeing like just every single tie-in and so I don't know. I mean, they're not really leaving this one the chance. I mean, this one has to be a huge hit, I think, right?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I hadn't thought about it until you said it. The idea of the promos in Spanish and English is that has there ever been any discussion about the fact that Spider-Man is one of the only heroes we have where like I guess Deadpool as well, their entire face is covered, so it's probably much easier to do like
Yeah,
international releases because they don't have to do lip syncing for anything or reanimating of anything. Like they just literally have a dude come in and say whatever, and it doesn't even have to lip match. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, this reminds me just like of a couple years back when Inside Out 2, like, was like $1 billion movie. And I think people, when they think about successful Pixar, they think of Toy Story and Finding Nemo and everything. I don't know that people really thought of Inside Out 2 as being the kind of movie that would break 1 billion. But at the time, a lot of the press about the marketing of that movie was that they did have a really heavy Hispanic marketing outreach, and advertising in Mexico and on Telemundo and Univision. And similar to what you're saying, they're animated, so you could, animate them, speaking in Spanish, and that's like an easy thing to do. And so that was like a big like light bulb moment for a lot of studios. It was like, oh, Mexican people like to go to the movies too, and I think they over index, I think, on actually going to movie theaters. So seeing all the Spider-Man stuff, I was like, yeah, this is like the studios like understand like there's this huge Hispanic market out there that will go to the movies, and that's like, yeah, I don't know.
You're saying that they learned a lesson in real time, which I don't think studios have ever done in the history of filmmaking.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like a couple years before that, the big thing was like, oh, there's millions of people in China who want to watch our movies, and then that market went away. So like they were like, oh wait, what about south of the border, right?
Just trying to find whoever way they can get to watch it. I mean,
Yeah,
truthfully, I think hasn't the Fast and the Furious franchise has been hugely successful specifically because it appeals to so many different,
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, ethnic and cultural backgrounds across the world because it's diverse cast. So like, I mean, I think we both would say all movies should really be trying to measure up to the yardstick that Fast and the Furious has created for cinema.
Man, when are we gonna do an entire Fast and Furious retrospective? And we shouldn't even
What
talk
time
about
is
the
it?
movies. We're
I'm
just
ready.
gonna talk about Vin Diesel's Instagram, I think.
I could scroll through that for hours, man. My favorite ones are where he like it'll just be a picture of him like sitting on stairs somewhere, and then
Yeah.
like all it says is like an emoji of prayer hands.
Yeah, I
What?
like the ones
What?
where I like the ones where he like has these long missives about like, spirituality and his creative journey, and like they're really long and they just go and I love those. But then I also love the ones like what you're talking about where it's just a picture of him and it just says the word creative or something like that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Or the way that he finds the ability to mention the five iconic character
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he's played over and over in every single post.
All right, let's run them down.
The
It's
Arbor King,
the Arbor King. It's the detective from New York, Kojak. It's Calder, the witch finder. What is he? What is Calder?
witch hunter. Yeah,
Witch
I don't know
hunter,
what he
maybe?
is. He does something with witches. We know that.
Yeah. Xander Cage.
Then
That's
there's
another
of
big
course
one.
there's Riddick.
Riddick. Riddick. Yeah, I think those are them. And then we don't know
Yeah.
his character's name in Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but that's going to be added to the list eventually. The
Do you
iconic
think?
fill in the
Do
blank. Wait.
Well, I mean, my assumption is there's two of them. There's a Rock'em and there's a Sock'em, and
Yeah,
he's going to
there's.
play one. And who is the person that he's going to do Eternal Battle with?
Oh my God. It's just him, but painted blue.
Sold. Where do I
Yeah,
pay?
I'd see that movie. All right, let's talk about Spider-Man. It's coming out. I have no sense of time. I have tickets for August 1st, so that's when I'm seeing it. But I don't know what day today is. So soon, right?
Yeah, I'm going to see it on opening weekend. Whenever I don't know. I haven't just you know I live in a place where I don't even have an IMAX screen. I had to watch Odyssey on like regular peasant screens like most of us do. So I'm just going to see it on whatever the soonest showing
Yeah,
is that's open. But it wasn't crowded for the Odyssey, and that movie's doing insane. So I think I'm not going to have a hard time finding a Spider-Man seat either.
good. So obviously we'll do our reactions to the video, to the movie after we see it. But of course, we're doing a check-in. We're gonna offer our predictions. But we also thought it'd be fun to talk about like the 2 to 3 plus years of predictions and scoops that have come out for the movie, prior to it coming out, and doing a little check in on how many of them panned out or not. Because I often forget that like No Way Home came out in 2021, which is almost like 5 years ago, right? So there's just been a lot of years in the wilderness of people like predicting what's going to be in Spider-Man 4 before he even had a name, before anybody knew who was in it, and almost all of them panned out. Almost every prediction was right on the money, right?
100% accuracy.
Cool. Well, I have a list. I'm gonna show you my notes of what people were saying about Spider-Man 4.
Yeah. And well, and this is a franchise that's fun with too, because this was also a big thing when the last movie came out too. There was a ton of rumors before. I mean, the most famous one being the one that actually happened, of course. But yeah, there was a ton of stuff about that one as well.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to start in January 2024. So this came from a scooper named Daniel RPK, who will come up a few times because he's one of these really prolific scoopers out there. But the word on the street in January of 2024 was that Vincent D'Onofrio was in touch with Marvel and Sony about Spider-Man 4, and a lot of fans were pretty hyped about that. But he also reported at the time that Sony wanted to bring back Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire for Spider-Man 4, but that Tom Holland and Kevin Feige want a more grounded movie. So that was a scoop that number one, D'Onofrio wants in, Sony wants a multiverse movie, but Marvel and Tom, they want a grounded street level movie. So that was a rumor at that time.
Well, my favorite part about that scoop is that there's essentially absolutely no way to disprove it because all it's saying is that like three people were interested in being in this.
Yeah,
Yeah, no shit, buddy.
my take on that one is that because then it does that theme does continue for like the next year or so, that Sony wants a multiverse movie and Marvel wants a street level movie. Like that kind of like continues a theme for a while. And part of me, like, I get the perception of Sony that they always do the shittiest, dumbest take on all of their properties. But even that said, I find it hard to believe that Tobey Maguire and Andrew would want to come back for another multiverse movie, or that Tom Holland would want to do like, share screen with two more Spider-Man again. Like that just diminishes him as the lead of the series. And they already have a multiverse, thing going with, the Spider-Verse movie. I don't know, like maybe there was an exchange somewhere in the halls of Sony where they're like, hey, let's keep the multiverse train going. But I just don't put a lot of stock in that as being like a really big conflict between Sony and Marvel.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine the conversation with D'Onofrio too. He called and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, can I be in Spider Man?" And they were like, "No, you're not allowed." And he said, "All right, well, I'll see you on Daredevil."
Now that I was thinking about this one though, and part of me did wonder, maybe there was a version of the script that had Kingpin and Daredevil in it. And then once Wright's stuff or schedules didn't work out, or for whatever reason, that isn't the direction they went. I could see a world where they easily put in Tombstone for Kingpin and Punisher for Daredevil in those, in that story. So,
Yeah, that's a fair
par-
point. And to
yeah,
be
I don't
clear,
know.
I would have loved to
Yeah,
have D'Onofrio in there. I think D'Onofrio's great as Kingpin.
yeah,
I know about all the legal snafus, and so my assumption was that they never would have got to that place. But I guess you're right. That's
yeah.
a good point.
No, I don't know. I mean, I've always been skeptical of it, but then I started thinking, maybe there was a draft or a version where that was what they were planning, and then they said, hey, you know what, we can make different character choices and achieve the same thing. So I don't know. All right, so moving
Well,
on.
all I know.
Yeah, what do you know?
No, no. I'm excited about. I'm excited, frankly, if he didn't make it. If that's the reason we get Tombstone, I'm happy because I love the idea of Tombstone, and I frankly can't believe that he's going to have a prominent role because he doesn't seem like the kind of character anybody but me gives a shit about. So I'm actually excited to get him. So
Yeah, same. Okay, so then I also doing the research on these scoops. I forgot that 2024 was the year that we got three Sony Spider-Verse movies. So Madam Web came out in February, Venom came out in October, Venom: The Last Dance, and then Craven came out in December, which like it feels like ancient history, but it's just crazy that they had you know, three of their Spider-Verse movies come out in one year, like which is crazy. And I didn't see
that
Madam
is
Web. Did you see Madam
shocking.
Web?
I did see Madam Web. Yeah, my friend made me watch it. Honestly, I don't even think he wanted to see it. He just knew he had heard how bad it was, and he kind of wanted to make me watch it. I think that was real. He's a sadistic man, and he forced me to watch it. Yeah, no, not a fan.
What's funny about that movie is that if they were going to try and really do the multiverse stuff, then you would think that like Madam Web would have had a stronger connection to either Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield's, and they ended up not really committing to a specific Spider-Man. And I mean, there was sort of a multiverse-ish angle to it, right? I guess because she can see different timelines or whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. But in the comics, she is supposed to be sort of like a figure in the multiverse or something, right? But they didn't go that way, right?
Yeah, so it's crazy to me. First of all, it's crazy that there's a successful Spider-Man in Marvel and there's a successful Spider-Man in Sony in the animated form, and they were like, well, what if we just made one more? Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, it's so rare that you get one successful one, let alone two. Why are you going back for that third bite? Why not spin off something out of one of the two successful ones in a more logical way? But I know for rights reasons there's certain things that aren't available. But yeah, that one didn't tie in anything else. It almost seemed like it was less about alternate realities and more about like vague predictions of what might happen in the future, kind of thing. Like, so
Yeah,
it didn't even really feel like multiple potential dimensions. It just felt like kind of like that thing where like you can see a potential future, like in what was it,
yeah, yeah.
Minority Report. That's almost like more what it reminded me of.
So then later in 2024, Venom: The Last Dance came out in October. Leading up to that was a lot of rumors about the character Null, who is the symbiote king in the comics, and the idea that Venom: The Last Dance, even though like the cast and you know Tom Hardy, they were all saying this is our last go at Venom, like we're wrapping things up. There was a lot of rumors that this was actually the launching pad for a whole Null storyline where Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Tom Hardy's Venom were going to team up to defeat the King of the Symbiotes, and that would be this multi-movie epic that would start in Venom: The Last Dance and then continue in Spider-Man 4, and then maybe bring in Craven and Morbius too while you're at it. I don't know. But that was like a pretty big theory that was going around. I have it here as primarily from a scooper named shit. He writes for Cosmic Circus and his name is Alex Perez. That's what it is. He's another one that I get a really big kick out of reading everything he says because it's all just total like, you know, fan fiction basically. But yeah, that was a big one that
Yeah,
Spider-Man and Venom were going to fight Null in a huge crossover movie.
yeah. Well, what's interesting to me about that one is the idea that, and maybe you know better than me because you stuck with the comics longer, but like I would argue that Null might be one of the villains with the least amount of public awareness for anybody who is not a
Yeah.
comics fan. Like every member of the Sinister Six and like and probably four or five other people would be more recognizable villains if you were going to have a giant crossover that brought those two characters together. Like even Carnage, who they already used, is a bigger and more well-known character that could be a conceivable threat to Spider-Man that would cause them to like cross over. That one just seems insane to me that
Yeah.
they would choose a low tier character that much, and that there was a theory that they would introduce this major villain in the Sony movies and not in the Marvel ones.
So again, giving more credence than I probably should. I didn't see Venom: The Last Dance. They do have sort of like an appearance by Null at the end that sort of hints that there's more in store for this guy, right? But they quickly like nothing was ever announced or there was never any development on any more symbiote stuff, right? I mean, as far as I know.
No, my assumption was that was sort of like a last ditch effort to say, well, if we want to keep these adventures going, Tom Hardy already said no, so maybe
Yeah.
we can have Venom find a new partner to
Hmm.
continue this adventure if it's such a huge success and Tom Hardy still refuses to come back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that kind of stuff. I think people read in. This happens with Marvel a lot too, because so I thought it was really funny when you sent me a screen capture of a knock somebody had on one of our podcasts where we were talking about how Marvel didn't really have a solid plan for the Infinity War, like Thanos was sort of like and the reaction people, at least one person had, which was, what do you mean Marvel didn't plan the Infinity War? Like they planned them since Avengers 1 because he's in the post credits. And like I have so many responses, but my main one is like, have you been paying attention? Like every movie has a post credits and like 2% of them actually pan out into something. Like just because something is in a post credits doesn't mean that there's this grand plan to tell that story.
Yeah.
And in this case, in Infinity
Yeah,
War, they
we're
did.
all still chomping at the bit to see the Brett Goldstein Hercules movie. You know what I mean?
Exactly, right? So similarly with Null, I mean, they put him in there, but I don't think that meant that they had like a grand plan or a structure for, where his story was going to continue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no better example of that than they did that with they were forming the Sinister Six as of the second Amazing Spider-Man movie before
Right.
they completely canceled that series. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a tactic, like I think you tease something and then maybe you can build something off of it, but I don't think anything more than that should be read into some of these things. So around this time, Destin Daniel Cretton was named as director of Spider-Man 4, which was pretty exciting news. I've always liked his work. And then in December of 2024, we get a rumor from Jeff Snyder, who's another one of these guys who I think gets has a reputation for being an actual like scooper with a good track record. But I'm going to read what he said in December 2024, and you guys can make up your mind. So he said that Zendaya's role had been severely reduced due to her schedule filming Euphoria and The Odyssey and Dune, so she was not going to have a substantial role in Spider-Man 4. He also reported that alien symbiotes were included in the script. He said a new group of Peter Parker's classmates would be introduced. Sacha Baron Cohen would appear as Mephisto, and that Charlie Cox would reprise his role as Daredevil. So
Boom. 5 for
I
5.
think I think they're all probably dead on, right?
Yeah, there's no way we get out of this movie without finding out that Sadie Sink is not a symbiote.
That's one. Okay, so symbiotes. Where do you fall on symbiotes being in the movie? Because I think it's slim to none, but there's still like that slim chance that maybe they sneak in, I don't know, a reference, or I don't know. Like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, so first of all, we do know that there is a symbiote in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now because of the little popover that Tom Hardy did in the whatever post credit scene of some movie.
Yeah, but like
But
we said, post credits don't mean
but
anything.
Venom's not there, so we know it exists. I'll say this: is it possible? Yes. Will it be the most frustrating and worthless appearance if it is? Because I don't believe they're just going to introduce the symbiote in the background of something, and they've made it clear, at least so far, that most of the main characters are not. We've seen them, and they're not either in costume or I doubt there's a symbiote underneath the hood of this character that we're seeing. Basically, is what I'm getting at. So the one major secret character that they're holding on to, I don't think it's a symbiote. So that would mean that it was a deep, deep backbench type thing, like smaller than Scorpion level role. And I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't see that happening. So
I yeah, I agree. I think that we will see Tom Holland wearing a black suit. That's probably a symbiote in Secret Wars, but I think that there's no reason to set that up in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Like, just do it all in Secret Wars, you know?
yeah,
Like
you
this
don't think
movie
they're going to
already.
do like Terrence Howard looking over at the War Machine suit and go soon and then run away? You don't think there'll be a scene like that?
I hope there is because I mean that's everybody's favorite, Marvel scene, right? Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I don't think
The
Mephisto is going to
irony of
be
that
in.
scene too, given that Terrence
Yeah, I
Howard
know.
said soon, and then the War Machine suit came back and he did not.
He didn't say soon. He said next time, baby. uh,
Oh man, I'm really glad I didn't quote it though. I'm really glad you
yeah,
were the one that said that.
yeah. It's my favorite line. I say it all the time, like constantly. More than on your left or I can do this all day. I say next time, baby. All right. But yeah,
Twice
just
just in this one episode.
yeah. So yeah, I don't think Mephisto's in this movie. I mean, he could be, and yeah, I think we were pretty wrong on all of those. So far,
Yeah, no, there's
Daniel
nothing there.
RPK
And
adds
Snyder's
Perez
interesting
in.
one because he
Yeah,
also nobody likes Snyder as a
yeah. Apparently
person,
he's
and I think
yeah.
they only follow him because of the scoops. And if he's this wrong about the scoops, why does he have a following? I'm so confused.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I like calling them out by name because like I see their names so often, and all of these guys have Patreons and Discord servers that you pay to join with all of these scoops, and I'm like, number one, why would you pay when the scoops just end up on Reddit anyway? Like you're not really getting an exclusive window into anything, and then they're all fake. So like, what's the point? So
Exactly. We offer our bullshit for 100% free.
exactly right. Okay, so just going down the timeline, March 2025, Sadie Sink is announced as being part of the cast in a Deadline article. And in that Deadline article, like this is the very first announcement that she's joining the cast. And in that article, they say speculation is that she's playing Jean Grey. And that was in March of 2025. And that did not stop the next year plus of rumors of every other character that she could be playing, which we'll get into some of those rumors. But the next month in April of 2025, another Daniel RPK scoop was that they were casting for a 30 to 40-year-old Asian male to play a villain. And that meant definitively that the villain, Mr. Negative, was going to be the main bad guy in Spider-Man 4. I don't know Mr. Negative. Most people know him. He did obviously was in the comics, but I think he was a really prominent villain in one of the Sony Spider-Man games, which I don't play video games, so but yeah, I just remember there being so much about shit, what was the name of the actor who almost played Sentry and was in Walking Dead?
Oh, Stephen Yun. Yeah.
Yeah, there was rumors that he was going to play Mr. Negative, which I mean, he's a great actor, so like that would be cool. But this is all just like based on like really just like third sourced casting stuff, like, and for all we know, they were casting a 30 to 40-year-old Asian man to be a member of the Hand who is in the movie, and maybe he's just like the third or fourth ninja, But people read this stuff and they're like, oh, that must mean definitively that the villain is Mr. Negative, and so there was like months and months of speculation about Mr. Negative.
Is there some sort of weird reverse bigotry to the idea that if like you announce you're casting an Asian person, they're like, oh, it can only be three characters in the Marvel
Yes.
universe?
Well, that happens a little bit later down. So like this isn't the end of the Asian casting rumors. So I do want to flag this one because this one is really amusing to me. So in May of 2025, there was an event called the Disney Blockbuster Consumer Products Conference or whatever. It's like where they show merchandise and consumer products for everything coming out Disney. And there was an attendee who posted on Instagram that he saw artwork for Doomsday. He saw artwork for Spider-Man Brand New Day. And he confirmed, this is like May of 2025, that the villains were going to be Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone. And all three of them are totally right. And so this is like not a scooper, a professional guy. He's just a guy who attends a consumer products conference. He sees the merchandise and he's like, oh, cool. The villains are Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone. And that went wide. My initial reaction was to think, like, okay, he could be mistaken with the cartoon because both Scorpion and Tombstone are in the Spider-Man Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon. And maybe he saw artwork for the cartoon and assumed it was for the movie. But no, he was dead on. And it's funny because those are the kinds of things that like, those are real scoops versus like, making a stupid educated guess on a casting call or something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, in this case, the only person that has given reliable information has been a person who does not do this for a quote unquote living.
Exactly. Okay, so then we're still in pre-production of the movie. In June of 2025, the cinematographer for the movie, his Pinterest board was public, and he had been adding Spider-Man and Hulk fight scenes to his Pinterest board. And it went private, but not fast enough because a lot of people saw it and they realized, okay, so Hulk is going to be in this movie, obviously, because why would the cinematographer be adding comic panels from Spider-Man and Hulk fights? So that was a really funny one. I mean, obviously that one turned out to be true. We've seen Hulk fighting Spider-Man in the trailers, so we'll call that one true, right? The movie actually starts filming in July of 2025. They're in Glasgow. A lot of that stuff is public. It looks really cool. I think that unlike Doomsday, having that production happening in such a public space and having all of the memes that came out of it and just like, fan content coming out of that public, like gave the movie so much goodwill and people excitement for it. And I feel like Doomsday is like the complete opposite where people are like, oh, they filmed the entire thing in green screen and, nobody gives a shit. So I don't know. Actually, I thought that was really brilliant marketing from the studio and from the director. So
Yeah. Well, hilarious that we consider it marketing, which is like,
I know.
it used to be just called like going to make a movie, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
Apparently, in some of those shots filmed in Glasgow, Spidey's on a Hulk. Sorry, Spidey is on a tank, and the tank has like some markings on it that people were connecting to Mr. Negative. But I think now we know it probably has more to do with the hand or something. I don't know, but whatever. Okay, so then similar to the mood board being featuring the Hulk being revealed, I guess the costume designer or somebody in the costume department also had a public, Pinterest board or something where they had a lot of Asian inspired armor and ninja outfits, a lot of, swords and shuriken. And so now obviously we know that all had to do with the Hand, the ninja organization in the movie. But at the time it was confirmation that the villains have been revealed and the villains are Viper and Silver Samurai, which were both featured in the movie The Wolverine. It's set in Japan. So maybe that was another nod that this was going to be a multiverse movie, that they were going to become from the Fox universe over to, I don't know.
yeah, that's an interesting one to me too, because like every rumor, including the Jean Grey one, even if it turns out to be true, all of so many of them have been like, here's the big reveal of a thing that's already been done, probably not as good a few years back by somebody else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so funny to for me to take the leap of, okay, this is some collection of images that are a hint towards what might be in the movie, but then to definitively say seven, the Silver Samurai is in this movie. And I'm like, Silver Samurai is not like anywhere remotely connected to Spider-Man in any way. And I know you can argue that neither is Jean Grey, but I don't know, like that's why I don't know. It's a really funny like extreme take to for me to take, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know what it seems like to me is like there's this thing where like everyone will forget all the dumb shit that you said that didn't come true. But if you were the one crazy outlier that said early that Silver Samurai is going to be in this, you get to dine off of that for the next 3 years worth of outrageous claims that you make because they're going to be like, oh, yeah, he was the one that gets Silver Samurai. So,
Exactly. Okay, so then Sadie Sink is seen on set. She's wearing a huge trench coat, so you can't really see her costume, but there's a glimpse of her camouflage pants. So the guess is that she's playing Punisher's partner, which is a character from the comics that I've never heard of, but apparently that was a big guess.
that one's amusing to me because I feel like the only sidekick they've ever introduced in Marvel was Bucky, and they turned him into the Winter Soldier. I think it's
Yeah.
hilarious to me that the first sidekick they would ever introduce would be the Punishers.
Well, it's also funny that again, this goes with a lot of like Marvel and DC stuff where an actor will be announced and they don't announce their role. Like if she literally was playing the Punisher's, assistant, like just get the name out there so that people don't spend a year and a half speculating that she's Jean Grey, right?
Yeah. Oh man, can you imagine how disappointed everyone would be if it was like Lady Punisher was the answer, and she'd had like a four
I know.
issue arc like 7 years ago.
Around the same time that she was seen on set, another scooper, My Time to Shine. That's another one that I see on Reddit all the time as being somebody who's reliable. Posted that the symbiote is in the movie as well. So we're still on the symbiote train. We haven't left the idea that symbiotes will be in this movie. So I don't know. We'll see if My Time to
Well,
Shine is correct.
see now I'm starting to connect dots, man, because I'm saying maybe what we thought we saw that wasn't was camouflage pants. Maybe that was mid transformation symbiote.
It could be. I mean, I'm gonna feel so dumb if there's a symbiote in this movie. I mean, I'm gonna feel like a fucking idiot. Okay, so we got to get to this. So this is one of my favorites. So okay, now filming has concluded in Glasgow. We're back in the realm of just like off the wall crazy rumors. So it's September 2025. The big rumors start to show up everywhere. I could not escape Reddit without seeing the scoop that Sadie Sink was playing a character from the comics called Shathra. And I am a comic book reader. I haven't read Spider-Man comics in so long. I have no idea who Shathra is, but apparently she is some kind of wasp goddess who feeds on spider totem energy. She corrupts and possesses her victims to increase her own power. And I guess the origin, I tried to search this down and figure out where this scoop came from. So many different people were saying that definitively that Sadie Sink was playing a character named Shathra from the comics. Apparently, this all came from the fact that a rumor came out that she was playing a shapeshifter. So because fans started to like, see, okay, what shapeshifters are in the Spider-Man, comics history, they landed on this character Shathra. And what I think is now super obvious, I didn't think about it until the last couple of days, that maybe they actually did hear that the Sadie Sink's character takes on different roles. But now we know from the trailers it's because she's controlling people's minds and controlling their bodies. So, we see in the trailer that she controls Scorpion, she controls Hulk. So maybe they that plot element was revealed to somebody and then they turned it into she's playing a shapeshifter, and that's where this Shathra thing came from. But the amount of people who said definitively that she was playing this, like, whoever heard of Shathra character was just like crazy. And even like as recently as like a few months ago I was still hearing like this, she's playing Shathra, like, just you wait. And I'm like, okay.
Well, the interesting thing is if they thought it was a shapeshifter, they didn't even go with the most obvious one, which is that obviously Craven introduced Chameleon,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Chameleon is going to be premiering in the MCU as Sadie Sink, even though he was played by a different dude in the other movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I'll read this description of definitively what her role was going to be. So she was playing,
Oh man, I can't wait.
yeah, she was playing Shathra, who arrives at MIT disguised as a student named Annabelle Adams, using a human body as the multiversal anchor. She's a wasp goddess who feeds on spider totem energy, corrupting and possessing her victims to increase her own power. So this even had her civilian name in there, Annabelle Adams, and that she was going to meet Spider-Man at MIT, which I don't even think is an element of the movie because MJ and Ned go to MIT and he's obviously not, right?
He's auditing their classes.
Yeah, exactly. So that one gave me a huge amount of amusement because just again, because I could not escape Shathra content for a good part of last year. But now maybe we can put Shathra to bed.
Shathra is the Maxima of the MCU.
Exactly. All right. Then the trailer came out, and then Keith David had an audio cameo in the trailer. I'm really excited. I like Keith David. He was just kind of narrating a spider documentary type. I don't think but apparently there was a lot of speculation that he's playing the Jackal because there's a keg in the trailer. So when Peter Parker's at the party, the house party with Ned and MJ, there's a keg in the background, and the brand of beer is called like Green Jackal beer or ale or something like that. So that meant that Keith David is playing the Jackal in the movie. So
Well, listen, if those are the tenuous connections that allow people to believe something, then I'm going
yeah,
to say I think that Keith David is reprising his role as documentary narrator from the television show Community.
but not Elroy. He's playing just
No, but not Elroy. Exactly.
yeah,
He was only in the one episode where they did the fake Civil War documentary.
yeah.
He's playing that character, but not the other one.
That's hilarious. Okay, so that's the end of my list, except for I didn't really pin this one down to a specific date, but I remember hearing for the longest time that the Hulk was going to be in the movie and that he would be the Gray Hulk, because that's, I guess, considered. Well, that's what's funny thing about it is that the 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 conversation around it was like that. Oh, he was back to being savage, instead of being smart Professor Hulk. And so that meant he would be gray because in the comics, Gray Hulk is considered the more savage Hulk. But I don't remember it that way. Like I think of Gray Hulk as being Mister Fix It, like the Vegas bouncer dude. So I don't really know why people were fixated on this idea that he was going to be Gray Hulk. And so we've seen trailers, like the colors are muted, in some of those scenes, but he's definitely green. Like, I don't know. But like, I think I shared
Yeah.
with you over text, like somebody had this like big scoop that like the posters for the movie came out at Walmart, like those racks, those movie poster racks you see at Five Below or Walmart or whatever. And there's a Spider-Man versus Hulk poster. And they're like, first look at Gray Hulk versus Spider-Man. But the picture is of a very green Hulk. So I'm like, I don't get it, guys. It looks green to me, but you do you, I guess.
Man, it's so Orwellian, dude. Like the last rule is that they say that you're not supposed to believe what you can see with your own eyes. Once they can get us to buy shit that's clearly not true, then they don't have to do any work anymore. They can literally just make things up.
Oh my God. But who knows? I mean, we haven't seen the movie yet. Maybe he turns gray for some reason at a certain point in the movie. I don't think so, though. I mean,
Bro, what if the symbiote is gray?
oh yeah, the symbiote Hulk. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. That'd be cool.
No,
Okay, so then
all I'm saying is that Null, and Hulk have many of the same letters in them,
yeah, that is
and I
true.
feel like that's important.
Nulk. I think Nulk could be in the movie.
Yeah,
Actually, it would be funny for the movie to end.
we're gonna make that claim right now and see if we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
give it some traction before next weekend when it comes out.
I hope the movie ends and there's a post-credit sequence where we check back in with Noel and he's still sitting on the throne and he says something else that's menacing. But then that's we don't really see anything else with Noel for the rest of humanity.
And then it just says Null will return in Doomsday,
I hope so. I mean, that's what Doomsday's missing
and
is
he
a little bit of
does the exact same thing though.
yeah,
He also just still sits. And in
yeah.
fact, we're just going to get a Null post credits cameo to replace all of the other people that have never popped up in Marvel movies. It's just now going to be Null all the time.
Well, what's funny is that obviously Andy Serkis did the motion capture for Noel, and Like it would be really funny to just take his raw like motion capture suit capture and then give it like open source it so people can make their own, like they can make a Thanos one, they can make a Noel one, they can make a Green Goblin, like insert villain like menacing, post credits tease, why not?
The various shades of Andy Serkis.
Yeah. All right, so I think I don't know that this movie is it has so many stupid theories about it. I do just want to like at the end just run down everybody that has been Sadie Sink has been rumored to play. I mean, at this point, I can't imagine it being anybody other than Jean Grey, but who knows? So she was rumored to play Tobey Maguire's and Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's character's daughter in their universe. So she would be Mayday Parker because there was a spider daughter in the comics from an alternate future. So she would be time traveling cross dimensionally into the MCU as Mayday Parker. So that was a theory for a while. There was a theory that she was playing Mary Jane Watson, but from a different universe. So that's why she's traditionally redheaded. So a counterpart to so like MJ from his universe broke up with him, but then MJ from a different universe comes to I don't know, be a new love interest or something. That was a theory for a while. There was a theory that she would just be playing Gwen Stacy, new love interest. I could see that one, but that didn't pan out. We mentioned the Punisher assistant. That was a theory. Firestar and Black Cat were also on the table as characters that she could have been playing. Did I miss any? Do you remember any other potential Sadie Sink castings that were out there?
No, those are the only ones that I can recall. I do have a prediction about her character though, but it's not a
Yeah,
new
let's hear it.
character that hasn't been mentioned. But I have a take that I haven't heard anybody else say,
Mhm.
which is, how Famke Janssen has sort of gone on record as saying, no, I have not been asked to be in Doomsday. And like, I think she's playing the sour grapes angle of it. And I think people think that she's going to pop up. I think she's absolutely not in Doomsday. And I think the reason she's not is because she is the secret villain in Spider-Man Brand New Day. She's
Uh,
the alternate version of Jean Grey that's coming after the new Jean Grey in this universe. And we're witnessing one of the incursion battles in this movie that leads to the big events that are going to happen in Doomsday.
I hope that's true. And I also hope that Sadie Sink's Jean Grey and Famke Johnson's Jean Grey both Dark Phoenix it up. And we have our third Dark Phoenix adaptation within a Spider-Man movie. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Oh man, that's true. Well, technically be fourth because we would get two Dark Phoenixes.
Yeah, there
That's
you go.
that's one Phoenix per Phoenix.
That would be incredible. Like this movie already has like Punisher and Hulk and street level villains and ninjas, so why not throw in the Dark Phoenix saga while you're at it?
Can you imagine though if you're Michael Mando and you get called and you're like, it's been how many years since the first Spider-Man? And they're like, hey, congratulations, you're coming back and we're putting you in the Scorpion suit. And then he's like, oh, that's awesome. And then he finds out he's villain number 10 in the call
Yes.
sheet. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know if he voiced the Scorpion in the animated show, the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? I don't think he did.
I don't know. I know he didn't voice Scorpion in the in Spider Verse, but I
Yeah.
don't know who did it in the TV series.
Hmm. Well, I don't know. Despite all the predictions and our own expectations, I'm pretty excited about the movie. How are you feeling going into Spider-Man Brand New Day?
I'm super excited. I have never been. I think there's only been one time when I haven't enjoyed a Spider-Man movie, not including the ancillary Spider-Man spin-off stuff, but like any movie that is a Spider-Man film, I've liked all of them. And the only one I was even like kind of disappointed with was Spider-Man 3, and that was just because I didn't think they executed the Venom story all that interestingly. The movie wasn't terrible, but like that was one piece that I was like, meh. But every single other Spider-Man that's been on screen I've enjoyed, and so the track record is pretty impressive. I think it's just a character that I really like the aesthetic of and the power set of and the concept of. So it would take a massive failure for me to not come out of that really having enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think people are making a lot of the fact that this is a Spider-Man that is, closer to the comics, because he's down on his luck. He's got his homemade suit. He's fighting like, street level villains. And all of that stuff is really appealing to me. Like I'm in the same boat as you. I've liked all the Spider-Man movies for the most part. And I've liked the version of him in the MCU where he had Tony Stark tech and all of that. Like none of that bothered me. But that said, I am excited to see like a different iteration within the same character, but just like in a new circumstance. I think that's going to be a really fun change of pace. So, and all of the
Yeah,
trailers for this movie have
same
been
here.
like top notch. Like I've not to just continually go back to Doomsday, but like I think one of the failures of the Doomsday trailer, even though I'm hyped for that movie, I'm really excited for it. I think it just left a lot of people cold because you know the Spider-Man marketing has had really great visuals. The action looks really exciting, has the humor, has all those like the things you want to sell a movie on. Like, hey, this movie has like, a love story in it. It has like some fun, character interactions between, Punisher and Spider-Man or whatever. Like there's a humor, there's a lot of fun action, there's fucking ninjas. Like, they're doing everything they can to tell you this is going to be a fun time of the movies. Whereas like Doomsday is like just all vibes, and if you're not into the vibes, then you're not into the movie. So I don't know. I just think they're really like knocking it out of the park with Spider-Man, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that they're doing opposite things too. Doomsday is selling the sole centerpiece of the story, which is Doom, and not showing you anything about him. And
Yeah,
Spider-Man is ignoring whatever the major plot is in the center of it, and just saying, "Look at all this other fun shit. You know, there's going to be stakes. You're obviously going to show up for that, but look at all this other fun shit we're doing." So
yeah, yeah. All right, man. Well, we'll check back in once we have both seen the movie with our reactions. But yeah, excited to see it and excited to talk about it.
absolutely looking forward to it, man.
All right, take it easy.